Hey guys, it's summer Rayne oaks and it's time to plant one on me. So this week we are going to be touching upon all about watering. So even though I touched upon watering and the hose and some kind of cool little watering hacks that I have around the house, I just keep on getting more questions about watering and more specific questions on watering. So to kick it off today, we're going to talk to Melody Adenium. Melody, your last name is the genus of a desert rose. I don't know if you know that, but nice to meet you. So hey Summer, I'm loving your Plant One On Me series and the info you share. Your apartment is basically my dream home. Mine too, Melody. Do you have any tips on how to keep plants hydrated when you're out of town for over a week? I just went to Costa Rica for about 10 days and I will be going out of town again. And there's a couple solutions, and this goes actually into a question. I'm gonna kill three birds with one stone here. Alarm 35 millimeters says, hello Miss Summer, can you do a tutorial on hydrospikes? So to answer your question, Melody and Alarm 35M, this is a hydrospike and it's actually one of my great watering hacks. So you'll see here that it's attached to this tube, and it has a little plastic top and a terracotta spike, and you actually put water in here, you wet the terracotta, and I'm going to use this peperomia here, and what you do is you make sure the soil is a little bit moist and you stick the spike in the soil. Try to stick it down as far as possible so you don't want it really sticking out, but for the purposes of this demonstration I'm just going to do that here. Then you're going to get a jar of water. So I use mason jars, I use old jugs, all sorts of little vessels that you could use. And it has to be lower than the actual plant itself. And then this tube goes down into the water. Sometimes the tube doesn't straighten out, so what I do is take fishing weights, and I rubber band them to the base of the tube so that it falls down all the way. And what's going to happen is this is going to be working by capillary action. So the water will end up pulling up into the drier portion of the soil. You don't want, conversely, it to be like this, because that's then working by gravity, not capillary action any longer. And if the water vessel is above the plant, then that's going to be a big boo-boo, because the plant won't be pulling up the water itself. It will actually be drowning the plant because the water will just be falling on top of the plant, and the gravity will pull the water down at a much quicker rate. I don't know how many plants I have hydrospiked, but I have a lot of them hydrospiked. And that is an excellent solution for when you are, one, going on vacation for quite some time, and two, forgetful of watering plants, and three, for plants that need a tremendous amount of moisture. So I swear by hydrospikes when it comes to my maidenhair ferns, which I know that's a question that I probably won't get to for a little while, but whoever it is that asks me about questions of maidenhair ferns and ferns in general, hydrospikes are your answer. It's such a great way to keep the soil moist without making it too moist. Second question, Melody, and again this goes into a third question that I got from Cal Montgomery 55, watering hacks please. Yes, Cal, these are all watering hacks, so definitely tune in. Humidity mats. So humidity mats are something that I have been experimenting with for maybe the past month, and I love them. The way that they work is that you would want to have a terracotta pot with a hole in the bottom, and you want the soil to be touching at the base of the terracotta pot. And what happens is there's a humidity mat. You could probably make these yourself, but I got mine from, I think, a place called Greenhouse Megastore. I'll include that in the links. But it is a large, but low basin, and it has like a felted surface on top, and you put the water below, and the felt picks up the water, again working by capillary action, and then you can actually put the plants on top of that. So in my closet garden, I actually converted one whole shelf to humidity mats. And all of the plants on top, except a few, are in terracotta pots. And this is doing two things. One, it's pulling up water from the root zone, from the base of the plant upwards, again, through capillary action. And secondly, it's just keeping humidity, because it's very similar to creating humidity with like a pebble base, which you commonly will see. It says, okay, well, I want more humidity in my plants. What can I do? Well, you'd put like a basin with little pebbles in the bottom so that your roots are not sticking directly into the water itself, and then it sucks up the water. So what I found with the humidity mats is that they're really effective, particularly in my closet space, because it's not directly in a window. But I do have one that's directly in a window, and I feel like I just need to refill that all the time. And so I think that those are my two biggest hacks. Hydrospikes like this. I have some that are just, you know, the plastic bottle hydrospikes, and you put the water in the top. I have some of those in the more like the harder to reach spaces. And then the humidity mats. And then if I'm really leaving for like 10, 12, 14 days, then I will also hire somebody to come and take care of my plants. So usually one every 2 or 3 days. It really depends on the season. In the winter, somebody doesn't have to come by as much because the sun is not so the sun is not so harsh. But I feel like in the summer months, when it's really dry and it's really hot, particularly my plants in the window could get a little scorched. So I always want, and a little dry, and I always want people to kind of check those. I mean, even the cacti and the succulents will be like, oh my God, it's too much light. So I've been meaning to do a video where I actually show people all the hidden hydrospikes in my house. Not all of them, but like a lot of them. And you could see some of the ingenious ways that I've hidden them and integrated them into the space so that if you're here, you really can't recognize them until I like point them out. So anyway, I hope this answers a lot of your questions. I mean, again, hydrospikes, I'll have them in the link, and I will also have them in a blog post of some of my favorite things that I use for plants in the home, and I'll have links to them there as well. So, and these are cheap. They're like 99 cents a hydrospike, and you could buy them in bulk. So what do you have to lose? Not very much. And you have everything to gain with your plants. Oh, I should say the one thing that you should look out for with these is that sometimes they dry out, particularly if the water in the basin dries out and you don't catch it beforehand. This will dry out. So then you have to just pop the top off, refill it in the water, and basically recalibrate it. But that doesn't happen all the time, particularly if you keep this always with water. Which again, then goes back to the watering efficiency. This is like super efficient to do because then you're just watering the jug versus watering the plant, and the plant is watering itself. It's like a no-brainer for me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Follow along on Instagram at Homestead Brooklyn. Check out the blog at homesteadbrooklyn.com. Check out some of the workshops that I'm doing. Plant workshops in Brooklyn. And yeah, just come say hi and chat me up. Let me know any of the questions that you have. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye. All right, so let's take a closer look at the hydrospikes in action. So you can see here I have some of this maidenhair fern, and we're gonna go down a little bit closer, and you'll see, if you can see, because it is very prolific, and you'll see this little hydrospike right here, the little plastic top and the tubing. And if we go in closer behind this foliage, you'll be able to see this little glass container back here, which is where the hydrospike is leading into. And I could actually even pull them out, and you could see that there's a fishing weight at the end of this so that it goes all the way down to the bottom. And that, my friends, is basically the concept of a hydrospike. It works by capillary action, and it results in these beautiful foliage and fronds of my maidenhair fern, as well as probably over 4 or 5 other dozen different varieties of plants, but particularly is great for maidenhair ferns because they prefer a little bit more of a moist environment, including this guy right here. So this may be a little bit more challenging to see, but underneath this shelf right here, you could see that there are these wet mats, and these are humidity mats. A bit challenging with all the foliage, but you can see it's like a black felty type stuff, and then you put the water in the hole down here, and that wicks up moisture through capillary action again and creates a very moist environment. So for the plants that are in terracotta pots and the soil is touching the base, they could actually pull up the water from the root zone up as opposed to getting water from the top down. So I basically water the humidity mats, and that's how the plants water themselves. Plus all the plants together, as well as the plants on top of the humidity mats, act as a way to build humidity in the room. So you'll see a lot of different types of species here. I have calatheas and Maranthus and Tenanthes and Stromanoides, and I have some zebra plants, and what else do I have? Alocasia and Calocasia and a ton of others. So these are plants that I, prefer a little bit more humidity. I could even step back and give you a little bit more of a perspective. And those humidity mats, what I really like about them is that they just blend into the whole environment. You can't even see them, yet they're working even when you're not. So this is part of my living room, and you might not be able to see the hydrospikes here, but I'm going to point them out to you. And this just goes to show you that I like to hide things so that it's a little bit more aesthetic. But if we keep going closer here, you'll see that there are mason jars hanging from the planter pots. And you'll start to notice that, yes, they're not vines. Those are the little tubes that work by capillary action. And they're pulling up into these Epiprenum aureums, or these devil ivies or golden pothos, and some philodendrons I think I have here at the end. And you'll see I have 3 of these mason jars. 1, 2, and 3. And I have a number of these contraptions all throughout the house. And what I basically do then is water the jars and not the actual plant. So the plants are pulling up the water here from their roots and through a capillary action where it goes from wet to dry. Here's a philodendron that you could see up here, and this is a different kind of hydrospike. So this is just one of those plant bottles. I think they call them plant nannies, but I actually took one of the terracotta elements from the hydrospike because I actually like them better than the plant nanny, and I just took the top off and cut the bottom off of this particular plastic bottle and stuck the plant nanny in there. And this again is how I water some of my higher up plants. Of course, it's very difficult to see down here. I'm actually, when you're at eye level, you don't even notice them. So unless you actually like really look up. So this one has one as well, but it's way up there. Way up there. I don't know if you can see it. It's very hard to see. So again, I try to hide the elements of watering all throughout the house. And you can see here, there's another hydrospike situation happening there with this Epiprenum aureum. And you'll see that he is just happy as a clam. I found this trellis on the street, another side story, and picked it up, repainted it, and now this guy is clambering way up to the ceiling. I like showing this little segment because you'll notice the mason jar because it's really against the light right here. And I particularly used a green mason jar, not only because my kitchen's green and it looks great, but also it prevents algae from growing in it. So this one is actually watering my philodendrons up here.
And you know, as you'll notice, it starts to blend in the background, and it's a little bit more difficult to see because there is a lot going on with this particular background.